Hi, I'm Dr. Ahadian. Today I wanted to discuss a problem with regard to eating disorders and anorexia nervosa and bulimia. Basically, eating disorders are conditions that the patient either controls the intake of the food or at times engorge themselves with food and end up with throwing up, which is a bulimia nervosa, and anorexia, which is a controlling attitude with regard to that. Uh, the main issue I wanted to talk about is how to deal with this in a very concise manner and briefly. One of the ways that we have to look at the situation with regard to eating disorders is as if to see it and picture it in a way that a person who has this kind of problem, besides the genetic and genetic preconditions and all the other issues that could contribute to a person suffering from that, they have the need to control the situation and the environment that they are in. And one of the ways that they are able to do it is by controlling the food intake, either to go ahead and eat a lot, or to control the intake of the food to the point of getting emaciated and anorexic and problems related with the physiological condition of their body. Now, one of the ways to look at it is that one of the parents were asking from me that what should I do with my teenage daughter who is extremely restrictive and have problems with regard to food, and she was telling me that I tell my daughter to eat, force her to eat, talk about food all the time, sitting in and talking about how she's not gaining weight and how it's going to be bad for her, and etc., etc. One of the ways to look at it is that that's the worst way we can approach this kind of condition. The reason for someone who's controlling so much is possibly they are in an environment that there's chaos around them, issues going on with a family crisis, issue regarding probably with economical money conditions that it's out of their control, issue with regard to sickness, illness, cancer of people around them that they cannot control. And then you see a denial based on the family communication that they don't want to touch this kind of issues. They don't want to touch about how the problem is in the family and how everybody is suffering, and then kind of like a denial and trying to put it under the rug, so to speak, and not to deal with it. One of the ways to deal with this situation with regard to a anorexic person, so to speak, like a teenager living at home with the problems going on, is that the parents should first of all think about therapy. But what therapy does is basically therapy is going to help the parents to be able to be more communicative with the child, in a way to acknowledge the problems that's going on in the family, in a way to acknowledge that it's such a hard time in the family, that you're having a very bad time financially. We have problems, your father has problems, I have problems, all this has happened, economical issues and strains are there, we're not able to handle it, and acknowledge it. Because some people think in the family specifically that say, well, if we talk about our problems, then our children are going to suffer and they're going to lose their ability to go on daily. But the problem is that we should not forget that our children are very astute and very keen to perceiving what's going on in the family, what's going on in us. So in a way, for us not to acknowledge the problem and not to talk about this is what's existing, it's a wrong message that we are going to be sending to the children, specifically at this point the person who's having anorexia. And then that person is going to be more controlling, more restrictive with regard to the food, because that's the only thing they know how to they control. They can't control illness, they can't control financial problems, they can't control chaos, they can't control death, losses, chaos in the family. So one of the things that one can control is the food intake, how they put food in their mouth, so they become restrictive. It's the same way with people who are under stress, they smoke more. People who are under stress, they gamble more. People who are getting under stress, they drink more. All of that is kind of like a manner to forget about the problem that they cannot change, and then to control or to engage in another behavior to forget about it. In the case of anorexia, is to control it, to be able to have control over a situation that otherwise we're not able to. Now, by communicating and by expressing those feelings in the family and in therapy, in a sense, indirectly, we are going to say the things that the person who's suffering emotionally but acting physically by food is going through. So by telling them, we understand how the situation is, we understand this, life is not easy, we understand that your father, your mother is not doing the way you expect, that you're very embarrassed, we understand all of these problems. We will not be able to change it and do anything about it, but at least we can acknowledge it, we can talk about it. By talking about that, it's as if the person who's suffering from anorexia is talking and complaining and expressing those concerns. And it's been seen a lot that by this increase in the communication, we have decreased the eating disorder problem, and by just like cutting through and circumventing that and going and saying don't eat or eat too much, or you're eating too much, you're not eating enough, we're not going to help the situation. Other aspects to deal with this is definitely therapy and medication. Medication has been seen a lot to be helpful in anorexia and bulimia, and control those urges and sensitivities that because of genetic precondition one could be very susceptible, and then when the environment gets stressful and chaotic, one is being pushed to get restrictive with food or increase alcohol or use drugs and other stuff. So then medication will be helpful in that. Any other questions, you can go to my website at www.ahadyanmd.com or call me at 310-273-1131. Thank you.